permanent theme music. Thank you very much for that theme music. I really appreciate that. What's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker. This is WP Watercooler, episode number 307.
307.
According to the
official board.
400.
I love that the higher the number is, the higher pitch your voice gets when you're trying to find the number.
Sorry, everyone listening on audio for that.
Episode 307. We're gonna talk about burnout. And before we do that, we're gonna introduce ourselves. Russ, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Hi. Sorry, everybody on listening. That was a loud hi. What's up? I'm Russ. I'm from Las Vegas. Do a lot of stuff in WordPress. Used to work at a bunch of WordPress things. I now work for a Las Vegas casino doing WordPress, and by far it has been much needed. And, you know, that's where kind of burnout comes from, is a change of pace, really, is what it is.
Or not a change of pace.
Right.
No, it's a change of pace.
You're already talking about the cure.
We can talk about the symptoms first. Say, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Who am I? Hi. I ask myself that every morning. It's a good question. But the answer is generally I am Say Reed, and I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress on Say Reed Media, add all the things. That's not actually the thing I say to myself when I wake up in the morning.
I feel like it is. I feel like it is.
It's not. Only on Fridays.
I feel like you have different mirrors in your house, and you're like, I preach, I teach, I do. Like, you just move like around.
It's actually the 3-camera reality show that I'm filming. And I'm like, make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website, jasontucker.blog. And this particular episode of WP Watercooler is brought to you by Desktop Server and ServerPress. I want to say thank you very much for those folks for helping us out. Go over to our website over at serverpress.com, and you can find all about the cool stuff that they got going on over there.
Wait, hold on. I want to tell you a great idea. We should totally do a WordPress reality show. Like, why is that not a thing? I think I would be really interested.
Like WordPress edition?
No. I want a development show where it's like every week you got to develop a plugin, and then we judge it, and then like you're gone, and then at the end like you have like this catalog of this whole thing, and like I think that'd be
so.
Awesome.
It's like Shark Tank plus Plugin Palooza.
Yeah.
I mean, but like better.
Steve, why are you gone this week? We have ideas you could monetize. Like, what is this?
Right.
We'll let Natalie McLeese be the judge of it. How about that?
Right.
We should really let Natalie judge everything.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about burnout. Burnout is, we just talked about this, about something like Plugin Palooza. If you have burnout and you're totally just tired of doing the type of work that you're doing, or you just feel like you're in this weird grind. And I don't know if you've ever played like World of Warcraft or any of those types of games where you're like the person, Zelda, for instance, and you're like, here's a thing, go take it to this other thing. And you just feel like you're just like a FedEx worker.
Literal grinding. Video grinding.
For me, outside of my work, you know, I drive for Lyft. And so Lyft is like my kind of escape from this. So I go and
totally
elsewhere.
I love that that's your way to avoid burnout. You go do more work.
I go do more work, but a different kind of work.
Oh no, like he totally just goes and drives and like gets the scenic views and like has crazy stories. Like it's definitely something that should be prescribed.
It's like you don't even have to do people watching. You like go get the people to watch. Like you're just like, it's like proactive people watching. You're they
come to you. That's how it goes.
Yeah. You don't even have to do
stuck
anything.
in your car with them. Yep.
Yeah.
So burnout. How do we define burnout? How do we kind of what's the best way to explain?
There's a lot of types of burnout. I've been talking about this with this has come up a lot in various forms lately within WordPress, but also it's obviously goes to a lot more than WordPress, but specifically in terms of the community, in terms of participation, I think that there is a heavy it's like a bounce rate. it's like a burnout rate.
I totally think it is like a bounce rate. I mean, at some point, like, how many times can you see in your feed that, you know, so and so did something before you're just like, you know, unfollow or unsubscribe?
Okay.
Like, yeah, dude. Like I would describe burnout as like, you had this good idea, you're going to be the startup business that offers this thing, and then right out of the gate, it's just data entry, and you're just like, this was not what I wanted to do. This was not a good idea. Like, I think that's what burnout is, man. And burnout is definitely a real thing.
I think that burnout, especially in that community context, is something where you are doing something and not getting anywhere. Like, even more literally thinking about like a car that's, you know, spinning out or burning out. It's like, I think you see that in the community a lot, where people are like trying to do stuff and they feel like they're achieving absolutely nothing. And
I feel like the last couple episodes of Water Cooler that I did, when we talked about like meetups, not like you're not getting the fulfillment out of meetups and stuff. Like, dude, that was me being like, I'm burnt out, because like I roll up to that meetup and I'm like, I'm going to show you this, and they're just like, so what plugin is good for parallax? And I'm like, are you serious right now?
So that's also what I mean, like burnt out on answering the same questions, because especially if you're doing freelance work, like now, Russ, you're doing something where you're working on the problems and you're not having the same problems come at you day after day. I know that that's something that I've experienced when I do a lot of work with beginner folks. And definitely last year, I reached a point where I was like, I'm not doing another password retrieval. I'm not. If you don't know your password, you have to leave. I'm not doing it. Go in the other room, retrieve your own password, and then you can come back. We're not doing it together. Password retrieval burnout. I didn't actually ever say that, but
that sounds key. That sounds like a good name for a record. Password retrieval burnout. I would listen to that record.
I think the key is with burnout. The danger is if you don't recognize it before you snap, essentially, you will say that to a client. You're an idiot. Get out of here with your password retrieval. I don't want to talk to you anymore. This is the last one I've done ever. So I think the important thing is to recognize it before the snap, before the burnout gets.
And how I think I recognized it before my snap was that I was saying the same thing over. I was telling the company that I was working for, hey, I noticed this trend. I was really pushing and like, we need to, change the business, do this, do that. And like at the end, I was just like, hair pulling out because, like you're having the same conversations, you're arguing, you see it day to day, like you're in the data, that WordPress is going this way or your business is changing, but like you can't adapt so quick and like you just get so burnt out. Like that's how I noticed it, is I was pushing for something and pushing and like when I stepped back, like that was maybe 2% of the entire pie, but I was pushing like it was like 80% of the pie. I think that's how I first got burnt out.
Yeah, I think taking on. Oh, sorry, say you're muted. I think taking on small projects that relate to the thing that you're doing, but doesn't have you kind of confined or setting constraints is definitely a thing that helps out. So if you have some dumb little project, or go through your list of 500 domain names that you bought and you never actually did anything with, and build a fake website for the thing that you're wanting to do. If you ever wanted to get into like e-commerce and you never built an e-commerce website, go try to sell a bunch of stuff that you don't actually have, that no one's ever going to buy anyhow, because it's just something you're playing around with. But like go sell widgets and see if you can make it happen, or go build a donation website for a friend's,
like not plug-in widgets, just like widgets is a variable, not like actual widgets, right?
Just like a thing, like a stuffs. Go sell stuffs.
Go sell stuff. Yeah, you can't say widget as a thing for like something that's generic anymore, because now that's actually a thing. Sorry, you're actually selling a widget.
So the first time I experienced burnout, I wrote a plugin. It took 20 minutes, and all it did was style gravity forms. Like you just had a class name and it did it. Like I did that 20 minutes, took my head off of everything, and like, I did that for a year, and I didn't know these new paths, and I think that really helped, like, subsidize my burnout by saying like I have this other thing, I'm experiencing it. I was searching for like, different forms and styles and different things. Like I was obsessed with this newfound love for forms. I still hate forms, but at the time it was that change. It was that change of pace that I was talking about. I mean, yes. WordPress is nothing but forms. If you look at it, every time you go edit a page, you hit submit. It's just nothing but a form. I get it, but I
call it what I've always called it is a fancy data inputter. Right. That's I literally have a slide in my WordPress docs that says FDI, fancy data inputter. That's basically what it is.
I love it. Fancy data inputter.
Right? It's totally what everyone's like, oh yeah, no, that's what it is. It's just a data inputter.
So I
genius, not me, the person who invented the fancy data inputter and then built this whole thing. Anyway.
I've taken 3 months off of like just being on any social media with WordPress. So WordPress admin or advanced WordPress for Facebook, stuff like that. And, the great hosting stuff and like plugin suggestion. I took a couple months off of that because, again, I was getting very frustrated. I was getting very burnt out on just somebody would post a question about like, hey, what's the best plugin? And then, 200 comments deep is just, why don't you post it over here? Like, we're not even having the same conversation. Like, now we're talking about like where you should have posted this question instead of answering the question. I was done. I'm slowly evolving back in. I'm slowly getting my, like now that I've had sleep for a couple days, like I'm slowly getting back into things, but I'm kind of noticing that trend again is just like, people are so quick to point out the flaws. And I think that's where my burnout comes from. It's just like, I'm over it,
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say next was that what I'm experiencing is not burnout with the software or the work necessarily. Like currently I'm feeling so burnt out on the interpersonal drama. Like I am like, wow, y'all, like, at a certain point, can we work together? Because we're all doing the same thing and we're not all trying, like, it's just over and over, this stuff. And there's a lot in progress that's trying to help. But I think that is what burns me out the most because it's all these people who are all trying to help. And so it's really hard to even be critical of all of that that's happening in that community. So the only solution sometimes is just to remove yourself from it. But the problem is, just like what you just said, Russ, it doesn't actually solve the issue, right? Like you go back there and it's the same stupid thing again. Now everyone's yelling at this person because they didn't post in the right spot instead of just answering the damn question and then it'd be over. Like everyone's like so on principle and it has to be this way. And it's just like, it's exhausting. It's truly exhausting.
The last burnout I faced, like this might be controversial, was Gutenberg. I was over like Gutenberg. I was over Gutenberg after like 5 months after they announced it. Like that was, I think, the most recent burnout was just like, I'm over it. Another article about what to do if Gutenberg does this thing, and I was just like, awesome, great. So it's a CSS fix. That's all you have to say.
That's more like Gutenberg fatigue is what that was. It's like, just like, I can't even hear about it anymore.
Yeah,
burnout, fatigue, it's all the same thing, really, I guess. You're just like, I am tired of dealing with this. I have no more energy to contribute.
Completely. Big fan of Gutenberg. I like where it's at now, and I like some things that we're doing, and I'm glad that it's here, and, on. But I was burnt out, bro. Like, if you seriously go to WordPress TV and just type in Gutenberg, like, I think there's like 70 pages of just talks at WordCamps, like within the last 2 years, by the way. Like, this is a small amount of time in the actual, WordPress is 20 now. So out of two, like, a small percentage of WordPress's thing has been all about Gutenberg.
What about you, Jason?
What really grinds your gears?
What really grinds my gears? I love the reference. So I don't know. There's a bunch of those sorts of things. So like for me at work, for instance, I used to work at a church that I built their website from scratch. I built all the stuff that they needed to kind of make everything work. I built custom post types for, our sermons for the Sundays, and I built, taxonomies for all of the speakers, and you can see all the speakers information. Like you build all this stuff and you build it way better than anybody else's, kind of building it, because they're just building church websites and you're trying to build like a database of stuff and ways you can look at it and everything. Right. And for the church I'm working at now, it's like we're at a point where it's like we want to rebuild our website, but we also want to get a mobile app, but we want the mobile app to work with the website. And I don't want people to do double, if not triple entry on all these different places. And it's like, let's make our content management system, that's not our website, but like the actual management system of the church, have that be the thing that generates all the stuff for WordPress. And so it's like, okay, well, it's a lot of REST API stuff and a lot of those types of fun things to kind of build out and everything. But I'm finding that for me to be able to pull that off myself, it's like, I'm butcher baker candlestick maker at the it plugs into a wall, gets an internet connection. It's my fault. I got to worry about all that stuff. So
also everybody's phones.
They're
like, so stuff. Can you fix this? Do you know how this works?
I have this thing and it does a thing and I can't. And you're like, oh, geez, yes.
Dude, have you ever been in one of those relationships where like you just go over to like the in-laws and they're like, my printer's broken. Like I haven't even set foot in the door yet. And you're talking to me about your printer? That is legit.
My job is to deal with the printers. It's like people, like I say this all the time, like people, can you just figure out how to send a PDF? Can you just send this person?
Oh my God, let me tell you about that, Jason. So
yes.
In the casino space, all right, every casino has like, let's say 3 or 4 restaurants, all right? But every casino website has like 300 PDFs. Like
of what?
Their menus. Like
no.
Yeah, apparently like it's too hard just to write like Oolong Bouge and like what's in it and put a price on a website.
But now there's Gutenberg, everything.
Even that, dude, like
there's so many good plugins for that. There really are.
So on our website, we put this thing where we put the menus and it's all just text, and like within a week that was like our 3rd highest ranking page.
Right?
Like
everyone's like, hey, the menu.
Like they don't have to download it. They don't have to open it.
So last night I literally taught a beginning, how to build your business website. And one of the things that I do is I talk about site mapping. And I'm like, all right, so we're talking about different pages a site might need. And my first exercise is always, okay, so let's talk about a restaurant. What page does a restaurant need? And everyone's like, menu. Like literally the entire class, every time. Everyone's like, we want a menu, because everyone goes to restaurant websites and does that. And yet still, now there's multi-million-dollar casinos in Vegas using PDF menus.
No.
And it's like, what?
Not only that, but like you can go through the Google reviews and find out what their menu is without downloading the PDF, because people will tell you what's good and what's not good. Like that is almost a better menu than that PDF ever could be.
Or like all the pictures on Yelp of the menu.
Yeah,
that is actually where you go get the menu.
No, not only that,
you get there and they don't have that thing anymore because that photo was taken 8 years ago.
You always have to check your dates on those. That is very important. Those menus can change.
Oh yes, totally. But like that is a real thing here. So like you said, Jason, I built a whole post type that is just our menus, and not only that, but it's by restaurant. So like we have one for this and one for that, and then I built this one widget, this one block that just whenever I want, I just say get all of these appetizers from this restaurant, and it spits it out, and it's like, dude.
Here's some food.
That was the best decision that we made. It took like a week to do, and
they're all like, "Wow, you are a magician."
But I mean, like our hits and our bounce rate dropped, and it was insane, And like, I can't believe that in 2019, I said that weird. 2019, PDFs are still a thing.
Or PDF menus for a restaurant and a casino is like next level bad.
PDFs are the flash or are the shockwave flash player of the internet right now.
Absolutely. I think that is what you're talking about with, like, you know, everyone's still using PDFs. I think as developers or people who work on the internet, you know, we've been dealing with that problem for like the last 10 years. And it's like the fact that a casino in Vegas with a huge budget that people are really going to the site all the time. It's like highly trafficked. It's not like there's some podunk, you know, pet shop in, like, you know, Wichita or something. I don't know if Wichita is actually podunk.
It's not like it's a casino
the suburbs
in Wyoming.
Of Wichita.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Like, you know, and it's like, but still it's these same problems. And I think that is something that at a certain point you just kind of have to accept, right? That like the rest of the world hasn't solved those problems, and we just have to keep solving them and solving them and solving them. And it's like, you know, with IE 5 or 6 or 7, you know what I mean? It's like you just gotta wait for people to catch up. Some people aren't gonna catch up. They're just not.
I want to get somebody on our show that works on Internet Explorer, and I want to hear their burnout of what IE burnout is like.
So I've been working with ActiveX controller for so long now.
I actually did see ASP is still a thing. That was.
Oh yeah, ASP is still a thing.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow.
Full Fusion's still a thing. Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the things my brother programs in. It's like these forks that the internet takes. It's very exciting. And if you go down one of the kind of legacy forks, I think actually it can get exciting, because then you're not just doing the same thing. Now you're being creative and trying to string things together. So almost there's like an arc where it's like software is interesting, and then it like plateaus, and then when it goes down in popularity, it starts getting interesting again, because you're like, how do I make this talk to this thing? I don't know.
So one thing that I have burnout with is like I love WordPress dearly, right? Just WordPress it. I have my San Diego shirt on today. But like every page or every post, it looks the same, right? Because you're using, you know, page.php, or you're using, you know, single dot, whatever. So like I've consciously tried to take my own website and change something differently. Like I'll have
page templating. I love page templates.
I mean, because it's my own site and I don't care, it's mostly short codes and ACF fields. But I mean, like
I bet that's dirty.
It's so much fun. But like,
and no one's judging you, so you can have as messy of code as you want.
But like
code in the editor, go for it.
But even then, it's like when you're writing a blog post, like I can talk about something that really excites me, but like, you know, I have this article now. I'm back into WordPress and I'm doing the same thing. Like I was even burnt out on that for a while. I have some good blog posts now. I'm gonna start writing again, doing things. But like I was burnt out on that just because like no matter what I wrote, everything aesthetically to the eye looked the same.
I wonder, some part of the back of my head wonders if Matt just got really tired of looking at the post editor and was like, we're changing it, because he was just burnt out on looking at the way that it looked. He's like, I don't care what anyone else wants. I can't look at this screen anymore.
I would put $5 on red that he did.
Just like, it's over. We're done. 15 years later, and I can't look at this screen anymore. Or 10 years, because I think it was like a 10-year-old editor.
Yeah.
So what are we doing to get out of burnout?
Take
a hike?
Making fun of ourselves.
You quit your job and you go work at a casino.
Where you get free chips. Woo.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. Like that's a work environment. That's accepting work environment.
So I feel like I have a pretty creative mind, if I could say so. So one thing that I do with burnout is I'm just saying, like, all right, I started a whole new section on my website just called like band names, like funny things that I think could be a band name. I started a whole thing, and like that kind of got me back into WordPress again. And I started this whole new section about like funny places that we have found our baby's binkies. So like I have a thing on my blog that says like found it here. And like, you know, I started a section called don't have kids, because, you know, kids are messy and stuff. Like I have a whole thing. So like that's what I'm doing, is just like how do you stop, take a break, you know, drink coffee, and like reinvent what you're doing. And for me, A, I quit. B, I found a whole new thing. I took a break, but I'm doing this new thing that's still my brand, but it's like being a metal band now you're going pop. It's kind of how I explain it.
I think that
I always have heavy metal in the back. I can always come out and just have some heavy riffs, but let's go write a new record.
I think that's really something that is about for all small businesses in general, not just in WordPress. But, it's funny, we talk about burnout for you doing it, but say you are a restaurant or something like that, or even if you are a WordPress service provider and you offer just the same thing all the time, offering new services, putting new stuff on the menu, so to speak, that can be exciting because then you're challenging yourself, even though it's, not, maybe it's not your bread and butter, but it's something that you want to start doing a little bit more.
But it's 5 minutes of his time to knock it out.
It is the takeaway to find something that has multiple avenues, because I feel like what we're saying is if you find something that you like, but you can branch off and go a different direction for a week and then do this other direction, but you're still in that house. That's kind of what we need to find, right?
I think it's because especially for us, I know for us or whatever, our interests, our geeky interests coincide with our work. And that is the case, for a lot of folks in WordPress. And so it's if you're doing all this work on the computer all the time, and then that's where you also are getting your enjoyment and those are your hobbies, that can really, especially for you, Jason, et cetera, obviously you, Russ, that crossover can then get you burnt out on the thing that gave you, that was fun before. And then that's really, I think, the danger of that, because then you lose both your joie de vivre for your work and for the passion that you had for your geeky, fun experience. Yeah. And so now you have to cultivate other interests. Something.
It's definitely that drug experience where you're this is so great, and then you're coming down and you're just this was a bad idea the whole time. It's definitely like that direction where you're just I am so excited to do this, and then you're just why am I in the green room right now? It's one of those kind of things. Yeah,
it's the party promoter that gets invited to a wedding and you're just I do this for work.
No,
it's right.
It's definitely when you invite you have a friend who invites their friend because he knows he's funny, but the guy's not really funny. It's just he says awkward things all the time. It's one of those kind of things. You're I
don't know anybody like that at all.
I'm that guy. If you want me to the party, I'm that guy. I was at Dirty Nelly's on the table singing Papa Roach. I'm definitely that guy. So
Papa Roach.
Last resort. But so definitely I think Burnout.
He was burnt out when he wrote that song.
He was strung out. That's the difference.
If there is a song for Burnout, it's that song.
You think so? Oh, dude.
This is my last resort.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, right.
So takeaways from Burnout here are: do something different, but stay in your wheelhouse. And if it sucks, go do something different. All it can do is suck again, But you just have to find what you want to go do and just take that venture. And when it starts getting if you can predict what the ending's going to be, you should jump. You should jump and change gears. And I think you'll stay on a good path.
Yep.
Words of wisdom from the green room.
Words of wisdom from the Plaza Hotel and Casino.
Yeah, I would say the thing that's really, I think, important is boundaries and being respectful of your own boundaries. Because especially when you like something and it's your work, if you don't respect your own boundaries, no one else is going to respect your boundaries. And then you're going to, it's easy to take on too much, especially in the WordPress world. So being respectful of your own boundaries, just like you would be respectful of other people's boundaries, I think that can really help.
Yep.
Avoid it. Maybe not cure it, but avoid it.
Thank you, folks, for being on the show. I appreciate it. Russ, as always, awesome time hanging out with you folks. And I want to say thank you for all of you that are watching this or listening to this as a podcast. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can learn how to subscribe to this and WP Blab, which we do over on Thursdays. And
which was awesome with Bridget and with Jen. That was awesome.
Yep. We talked about journalism,
We did.
major, as I used to say.
You didn't even invite me. WTF.
I know, right? Maybe next time we'll do another one.
Crossover.
Woohoo.
It'll be a
Talk to y'all later.
crossover episode.